Several years ago when I started traveling, I had no idea that these 5 habits could change the way I experience the world. They could make my travels not just more sustainable, but also more adventurous, more immersive, and more spontaneous. So, a few days ago, I attended a sustainability networking event. And when I told people that I work in the sustainable travel space, everyone had the same question: what does it even mean to travel sustainably? And so I decided to create this short video sharing just 5 simple habits that you can apply to any trip you take anywhere in the world, whether you travel to a city or a remote village on the countryside, whether it's in Europe, in Asia, in Latin America, or any part of the world. So the first habit is about consciously looking for alternatives to flying. Now, you're probably aware that flying has a huge footprint and actually accounts for the largest amount of footprint in the tourism sector because of the carbon emissions that are emitted by flights. And so, when I decide to travel somewhere, I've built this habit of instead of going directly to a flight website and looking for cheap flights to get there, I try to ask, is there an alternative way to get there by not flying? And this question can lead to a lot of adventures. I remember when I was in Thailand and I had to travel to India for a responsible travel storytelling workshop. Um, I started asking this question, and I realized that this is going to be more than a 4,000-kilometer journey from Thailand to India through the length and breadth of Myanmar. And because I had time on my side, I decided to embark on an ambitious land adventure. And it actually took me to parts of Myanmar that I probably wouldn't have visited otherwise if I was just, visiting the country and doing the popular things. But because I had to chart this route all the way to Northeast India, I ended up going to like tribal areas, small towns, and villages that I wouldn't have experienced otherwise. But if time is not on your side, it could also mean checking if there's an overnight train or an overnight bus to go there, which can also save you the cost of a night's accommodation and save a lot of your carbon footprint. And it could also mean reconsidering where you travel. So maybe if you only have a week's time and it's really long to get to somewhere by a land journey, maybe you could consider going somewhere closer to home. I think we often take our own backyard for granted, but there are so many adventures, experiences that are waiting in our own backyard that we haven't ever considered. The second tip is consciously thinking about where you're going to stay on your travels. So I think it's very easy to just go back into our comfort zone and stay in a big chain hotel that we are used to staying in. But if you think about it, if you're staying in a big hotel, let's say in Mumbai or in Tbilisi or in Bogota, chances are the experience is going to be more or less the same. So we can take a step back and think about what is a different kind of accommodation we could stay at, which will be more immersive for us as a traveler, but also contribute something back to the local community. And a lot of times, what happens is the accommodations in a place are foreign owned, which means that the money that we are spending there is actually going to flow out of the country rather than staying within the local community. So let's say you're a luxury traveler. Maybe you could consider staying at an eco lodge. This is a place that could be built with natural materials. Maybe they've integrated practices which are good for the environment. Maybe they've gotten the extra mile to protect the natural biodiversity around them. And this has all the creature comforts you want. But because it's so closely connected to the landscape and the people, it also immerses you in the place in a much deeper way. Now, if you're a mid range traveler, you could consider staying in a boutique hotel or a boutique homestay, which might be mid range in budget, have more comforts that you're looking for, but at the same time, you're hosted either by independent hosts or an independent family. And again, you get to connect with the place deeper than what you would have a chance to if you stayed in a regular guest house or a regular hotel. And if you're a budget traveler, again, you could consider staying in a homestay, but maybe something that's lower frills, lower cost, but it still gives you that immersive experience of really staying with the family and experiencing their way of life. And I think when I look back at my travels, it is the choice of accommodation that makes a huge difference because it kind of decides, first of all, what neighborhoods I stay in. So I often end up staying in local neighborhoods by virtue of the place I choose to stay in. But because I have a local connection directly with my hosts, I also end up, finding experiences which immerse me further as a traveler, and so it can completely change your perspective of a destination. Now, the third habit is to consider what you're going to do once you arrive at the place that you're traveling to. So I think the easy thing to do is look at Instagram, make a list of all these, 10 things that you must do because everyone else is doing. And then you spend all your time, going out sightseeing and chasing these places and taking the same photos that everyone else has taken. We've moved to the next level of this now, where people are even creating their entire itineraries based on a 1 minute prompt to ChatGPT. And I think it really boggles me because we're usually so individualistic in our choices, right? Like we have our own opinions about the kind of places we want to eat in, the kind of food we enjoy, the kind of people we enjoy meeting, and so forth. But when it comes to travel, which is it's a privilege and it's such a great opportunity to experience another part of the world, experience a different kind of culture and landscape, and yet we're just outsourcing this to average lists which are created, by everyone else on Instagram or by ChatGPT, which is just kind of consolidating everything that's written online. So maybe take a step back and think about what it is about traveling that excites you. How can you connect with locals in a way that feels true to you and that feels like a cultural exchange for you as well? So this could be as simple as choosing to maybe say, I won't go to all the popular sites, but instead I'll spend a day doing a cooking class in a local home or going on a tour that's led by a local community. And by doing this, we tend to get a better idea of where we're staying. We, build deeper connections with the people we meet. But at the same time, the money that we're spending also goes back to the place that we're visiting. And a lot of these initiatives, which are community run, which are immersed in the local culture, also tend to give back to the local community, as well as support, the local environment. And of course, they tend to be low impact in nature. So it's great for us as travelers, but it's also great for the places that we visit and the people we meet. So the fourth habit is thinking about the kind of plastic footprint we have when we are traveling. So, as we all know, single use plastic is something that you use one time and then throw away. And unfortunately, only 9% of all single use plastic in the world ever gets recycled. The rest just lands up in our oceans, in our landfills, in the soil, and actually enters our own bodies as well. And now microplastics have been found in the rain, in our blood, in our brain, pretty much everywhere. But all is not lost. We can still make the effort to reduce the amount of single use plastic we consume. And this is a habit we can build at home, but also take on our travels. So I think the simplest thing is thinking about how we are consuming water. Are we carrying our own reusable water bottle? Or are we going to buy tons of single use plastic bottles, drink water from them once, throw them away? And even if we throw them in a dustbin, chances are that it won't be recycled. So think about this, every single plastic bottle that we've drunk water from all our lives is still here on this planet and will remain here at least for the next 500 years. And there is an easy way to make sure that that doesn't happen. So what I do is always carry my reusable water bottle. There are many countries around the world, especially in Europe, where you can just refill your water from any tap. All the tap water is drinkable, and of course, it's good to ensure, with your host or with your wherever you're staying, that this is the reality in the city or the village that you're visiting. But in places where this is not the case, for example, in most of Southeast Asia, in my home country, India, it's not possible to drink water straight from the tap. It's not safe. So, what I would do is simply ask my accommodation if they could refill my reusable water bottle with filtered water. When I'm out hiking in the countryside, there are lots of natural springs. This is clean glacial water that can be drunk, and it's full of great minerals. And this is something that I make a point to drink. I also carry a live straw water filter with me. So if there's absolutely no option where I can find clean, safe drinking water, I simply fill the water. I simply fill water from, for example, a tap, and then use my live straw filter to drink that water. And I think it's been more than maybe around 10 years that I've actually bought or accepted a single-use plastic bottle of water. So this also means saying no to single-use plastic water on flights, on buses, on trains, at hotels, and so on. And I know that this means going the extra mile to make sure that you can find clean water and you can find, good drinking water when you need it. But I think it's worth the effort thinking about how long that plastic remains on our planet. And so the final habit that I want to share today is something really important and that we don't talk about enough, which is how do we talk about a place after we've been there? And you don't have to be an influencer, you don't have to have 10,000 followers on Instagram to think about this, because chances are you are talking about it to your family, to your friends, to your social networks, to your colleagues at work. And in that sense, you have an influence on how people think about travel and how they experience their own journeys. So I think it's important to think about, one, how are we representing local people? A lot of times we tend to go in as outsiders and kind of ridicule the local culture. But I think that's a really, narrow-minded approach to travel. So can we be more respectful of the way we've experienced the local culture and traditions? Can we recommend experiences that keep the money within the community and that also give back in some way? So in terms of protecting the biodiversity, in terms of supporting local communities and their living culture. Can we try not to geotag pristine natural wonders which are already being plagued by over tourism, which are already popular on Instagram? Can we recommend places which we found on our travels that we feel like immerse travelers, but at the same time give a little something back to the community? And so, how we talk about places when we return from there, and the kind of influence we have over our, personal networks, whether online or offline, makes a huge difference in terms of how other people experience the world and whether their own travels are sustainable. So, I hope these 5 habits have been helpful for you. I hope they've given you a little bit of food for thought about how you plan your next trip and where you go. I would love to hear your comments. Uh, Tell me about what are the sustainable travel habits that you've been forming and following, whether you're a zero waste traveler, whether you're someone who always chooses to travel by public transport, whether you're someone who tries to use low impact means of getting around like cycling or walking wherever you go. I would love to hear your comments. And if you find any habits here that I've discussed that you want me to deep dive into, for example, how do you find an accommodation that is really eco friendly and not just greenwashing? I could do a video going in depth into what that's like. In my next video, I want to challenge the myth that sustainable travel is expensive and talk about how we can travel on whatever budget we have without breaking the bank and without hurting the planet. If you'd like to see that video, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you then.